With us today is Raven Martin. Raven is a liver transplant recipient. Welcome, Raven, and we're anxious to hear about your liver transplant journey. Tell us when you first started noticing that you were having a problem.
In 2009, towards the end of 2009, I started having a lot of abdominal issues. And after several months of not having it figured out, it was still bothering me. I decided to go to the doctor. And after several tests were run, I found out that I actually had ulcerative colitis. And obviously, I wasn't excited about it, but it was good to have a name and a diagnosis for what was going on with me and to have a plan put in place as far as how to move forward and how to treat it. 2 months afterwards, I came back for a follow-up visit, and the doctors ran more tests just to see how the medication was affecting me. And I was told I had liver disease, primary sclerosing cholangitis. Now that shocked me because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't having any type of liver issues whatsoever. But they gave me medication and I went on about my life. Everything was normal. The ulcerative colitis was put into remission because of the medication I was on. And I never had any issues with the liver diagnosis at all. Fast forward to 2013, I was pregnant with my youngest son, and those liver symptoms started manifesting horribly. I was jaundiced. I was extremely tired. Everything under the sun that I hadn't experienced had now come to fruition. All the things that they told me I could experience, I started experiencing them. And it was horrible. It almost ripped my family apart. Like I was extremely sick because my liver wasn't filtering all of the toxins in my body. I was falling asleep. I could be mid filling up our dishwasher and fall asleep. I had broken bones. I mean, it got really bad. It was really bad. 3 years later is when I got put on the liver transplant list because I went into liver failure. And it was rough. It was a really rough time, a very rough time. And all of my family had to kind of pick up the slack from what I couldn't do because I was just that debilitated. I was just really, really sick. And yeah, that's pretty much the beginning story of when the liver symptoms came about. It was obviously, like I said, secondary to the ulcerative colitis.
Tell us a little more about your support system during that time. I know you said you went through some struggles. Who was there to actually help you through?
Thankfully, I had a very strong support system. My husband has been a very strong supporter of me from the beginning. He was the one that actually told me to go to the doctor because I kept putting it off and putting it off. And he said, Raven, you have to go. Stop trying to self-diagnose yourself. Stop going on Google. Go to the doctor. And so he put those things in place for me because I wasn't going to go. I was doing everything under the sun to avoid going to the doctor. So he's been a huge supporter of me. One of the unique things about my story is that we moved from our hometown 20 years ago. So all of my family and friends are still back in Detroit, Michigan. So it was difficult for us because my husband and my children, we're kind of it here. But once everyone found out about what was going on, my mom came down and she practically lived with us for quite a while to pick up the slack for what I couldn't do around the household to keep the house still running. My children stepped up. Everyone had to step up to help out because I just couldn't do anything. I was in the bed all of the time, fatigued and just really ill. And so everyone played a major part. My children, I have 3 boys, my mother, and like I said, my husband, definitely. And they all pitched in to make sure that everything ran smoothly.
Now, did you also mention that you were pregnant at the time? Did
I
I hear
was,
that?
yes. Mm-hmm.
That had to really make it
It
difficult.
was it was very difficult. It was very difficult because on top of getting the normal care for my child because I was pregnant, I was also getting care for my liver disease to make sure that it didn't affect him, but also to treat myself because I wasn't doing well. So it was a very difficult time. It was a difficult pregnancy. And I was always concerned about how the medication that I was taking to kind of keep my liver symptoms at bay would affect my son. So yeah, it was a very difficult time.
Let me ask this question. Did you receive your gift from a living donor or a deceased donor?
I received my liver from a deceased donor. Yes, I had been on the list for 6 years, and I definitely tried to find a living donor. And I had a few people that were able to step up and be evaluated, but it just didn't work out. So yeah, it took 6 years, but I finally got that call, and it was a deceased donor. Um, he was around my age. I know that much. I don't know anything else about him, but so very grateful because I was literally knocking on death's door. I was so sick they didn't even think they could proceed with the transplant. So yes, it was definitely such a blessing, and I'm so grateful for that gift.
Now, you mentioned about you had a lot of sleepiness. Do you know what was causing that? Is that a symptom of liver disease?
Well, I know definitely for the type of liver disease that I have, which primarily affects the bile ducts, it causes a lot of fatigue because you have to remember for the liver, the idea is that your liver is going to filter out all of the toxins that are in your body. When your liver is not operating at 100% or even any percentage, when you're in liver failure, your liver isn't doing what it's supposed to do. So all of those things that your body is supposed to excrete are now being kept inside your body. And so for me, I experience it's called encephalopathy, which means all of those toxins go to your brain. So I had a lot of delusional thoughts. For instance, when I would walk, I felt like the floor was uneven. I felt like if you can imagine a tightrope walker, I felt like I was kind of balancing on a tightrope when I would walk. I would see the floor moving, even though obviously it wasn't. So yeah, I was very, very affected by the liver failure mentally, beyond the physical aspect of it. Mentally, I was very much affected.
What were some of the things that you had to do in order to qualify for a liver transplant?
So to qualify for the liver transplant, first you have to show good faith by coming to your appointments. If they schedule you for an appointment, you have to show up. There's no missed appointments. You can't do that because the idea is there are so many people that are out there waiting for a transplant. They want to make sure that they give that organ to someone that's going to take care of it. And so that's part of being responsible is showing up for those appointments. Number two, you have to have a support system. The first thing that they asked me was, who do you live with? Do you have anyone that can help you? Because if you don't, it's unfortunate, but in our culture, well, it's not unfortunate, but in our culture, everyone is so big on, I did this by myself. I'm independent. Well, when it comes to a transplant, you're dependent on somebody. You can't do it by yourself. They won't even let you leave the hospital unless you have someone there. You can't drive. You can't leave the hospital on your own. So this is where you really have to kind of let go of all of that strong woman. I can do it on my own. You can't. It's just a reality. You cannot. So that's definitely one of the things they wanted to know. Do you have a support system? Who's going to take care of you? You can't do things for the first 6 weeks. How are you going to get your medication? Who's going to drive you to your appointments? So those are things that they want to know. Health insurance. I was very fortunate in the fact that I work and I had health insurance through my job. My husband works and I'm on his plan as well. They want to make sure that you can afford to pay for not only this surgery, but the medication that you're going to be on for the rest of your life. So there are so many little boxes that have to be checked off in order for you to even qualify to get on the list. And those are definitely things that, I had to prove. They wanted phone numbers for, like I said, those family members or friends that I named, and so they can verify that they're real people that are there. And yeah, so those are the three things that I had to go through in order to get on that list. And then obviously you have to be sick. You have to be sick enough. And I really hate that term because it's such a subjective term. Who's to say who's sicker than the other person? I was sick, but people would always say, my doctors always say, well, Raven, you're sick, but you're not sick enough. No, I am sick. I am sick. And that's one of the things that I really dislike about the whole procedure. I understand the concept of having to be sick enough in order to get that organ, because there is obviously someone else that may be sicker than you and they're going to need it, and it makes sense to me. But I've never quite fully wrapped my mind around the whole, you have to be sick enough in order for us to give you something. It still kind of boggles my mind.
And I think I understand that because I was in the same situation as a double lung transplant recipient. I understand that because when we're going through at that time, we just think, oh, I'm only going to be here a couple more days. I really need that organ. But there are people out there. And what we have to do is we have to realize just to receive the organ is a blessing, first of all.
Of course.
There are people out there who's always worse in a situation. I've had my lungs for 16, well, it'll be 16 years in May. And I feel like I received the perfect set. So who are we to rush, first of all, God's blessing and the doctors and tell them, no, I'm ready for mine now, when you may not be ready. So another thing is, what was the worst part of your journey?
I think the worst part for me was missing out on all of the things that my kids were experiencing at the time. We're a very hands-on family. We're a very tight unit. And when anyone has sporting events or something that's educational going on, or just anything, we like to spend time together. And that's what I really, really miss. And I can't regret it because I didn't do it, but I really wish I could get that time back. Even to this day, my children will talk about things like, oh, do you remember? And I don't remember. I have a complete lapse of time because I was just so sick. I don't remember. And I think that was the hardest part of the journey. Even aside from the physical things that I was going through with the liver disease, just that time that I missed out with my family. That's what I really, I'm sad about.
So in what year did you receive your transplant?
2022, August 3rd.
So it's recent.
Yeah, I'm 18 months now. It's been a year and a half.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I didn't know it was that new.
It was a long time coming. I mean, I knew that I had to press on for my children. They were really, and my husband as well. I mean, not to exclude him, but I knew that all I could see was I have to be here for my kids. Like I have to fight. And it was like, even on the worst days, those were the times where I just had to just push through and do the best that I could and just hold on to faith, because I knew I was going to get it. I knew it was going to happen. And I just tried to make the best out of that bad situation and just hold tight. And like I said, even up until the day that they called me, I was so sick. My blood pressure was so low and my heart rate was so low. But I told my husband, because he was an emotional wreck, and I told him, I said, it's going to be okay. Like, I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get through it. So yeah, I did. And I got through it. I'm here.
How about the day you got your call? How much excitement was that?
Well, you know what? We talked earlier, we're not morning people. That call came through at 2 a.m. And that was actually my third call, because the first call I got was on Mother's Day of the same year. The second call, I was a backup. And that hurt because I really thought that I was going in that day. So when that third call came at 2 a.m. on August 3rd, 2022, I remember I had a specific ringtone set for my phone just in case. It was a dog barking. And when I heard that dog barking, I thought I was dreaming at first, and I kind of heard it. I perked up and I said, no, I must be dreaming. And I heard it go off again. And I jumped out of that bed so fast and I screamed and I picked up the phone and they said, Miss Martin, we have a liver for you. Would you accept the offer? Yes, I will accept the offer. Yes, I will accept the offer. So it was amazing. I remember I shook my husband. I said, wake up, I have a liver. We were screaming. We were running through the house. The kids were, I don't know if they thought we had a fire or what was going on, but everyone was just kind of crowding into the hallway. Like, what's happening? I was like, they called me. So that will go down in history. I will never, ever forget that morning. That was an awesome, awesome day. And it changed everything. It literally changed everything.
Wow. Now that was a good statement. That transplant changed everything because I often say that my transplant restored my life back. With a lung transplant, of course, you have problems breathing. And I often think back on that moment after my surgery, and they had to tell me you get so used to different things. With us, we had to get used to being with oxygen. You had to take oxygen with you everywhere you go. And after my surgery, of course, you had oxygen on, but they came in to remove the oxygen. And it made me so nervous because for 3 years, oxygen was like a part of my skin. I couldn't move and breathe without it. Well, Miss Brill, no, you don't need that anymore. We're going to take that away. And that was the scariest thing until I realized I was back to being me.
Yeah.
When did you realize you were back to being Raven again?
I realized when I woke up, and the first thing, and my husband will attest to this, the first thing I said was, what do my eyes look like? Because I had been yellow for so long. I had gotten used to, and I have to admit, I was so self-conscious of the way I looked just because I was so jaundiced that I would wear sunglasses wherever I could, whenever we went out in public, I wore glasses and I probably looked crazier than I thought I did. But to me, it made me feel better because for me, people weren't staring at me. And so I don't even think it was a full 24 hours. He gave me a mirror and I looked at myself and I said, I'm back. I'm back. And I felt it. I felt different. I felt physically. I could tell like my skin was changing. Even the symptoms that I had before, like the itchiness, that was dissipating. Like everything was just changing just that fast. And that's when I knew it didn't take long at all. It didn't take long at all. And I was so grateful, so grateful. But it just illustrated to me how sick I was. And I knew it. But it's like you feel it. You feel different, and it's just so much gratitude and thank you, God. Like, thank you for giving that to me, for giving that back to me. It's emotional. Like, I'm just even thinking about it now. Like, it's emotional. It changed everything, and it's, yeah.
You're right, because I was about to tear up when I thought about when I came out of my surgery, because someone else was saying, you really don't talk about it. And you don't, unless somebody would happen to ask you the question. Well, what did it feel like? And, you go back and relive those moments, and it just brings a certain feeling about you. Gratitude, first of all, because the struggle for me, it was like 3 years. Yours was much longer, but to me, that was a long 3 years. But people of faith say, well, I know my gift is coming. You just have to hold on. You don't know when, you don't know from whom, but you just pray that it's coming. Now, what was the best part? What was the best part of receiving that transplant?
The best part of receiving that transplant was being able to do all the things that I said I missed out on before. So now when things come up, when we want to travel, I get to travel. I get to actively be a part of my family again. That's the best part. The best part is being able to wake up, and if I want to go walk, I can walk and not be fatigued. Even just being able to get up and take a shower. I mean, these are things that I couldn't do because I was so tired that it was like, that shower is not happening today because I just can't even manage to get myself out of the bed. So it's the little things. It's not even anything big. It's the little things that have made this so worthwhile. You know, just like I said, getting that time back with my kids. My son is getting ready to graduate. I get to see him graduate. My youngest son is getting ready to go to middle school. I get to see that. We've been on trips. I've gotten to rope climb and, you know, zip line and all this stuff. I couldn't do that stuff before. There was no way I could do that stuff. So that's what the thank you is all about. Just being able to be back and them to have their mom back, my husband to have his wife back, my mom to have her daughter back. You know, that's the reward of it. And to be able to share my story and try to inspire someone else.
And that's really important. And that's what we try to do. Get stories out there so people can hear, because a lot of people are very reluctant about registering to be an organ donor. There are so many myths and misconceptions out there. And I think we need to let people know, even in being signing up to be a donor as a deceased donor, you really have to pass in a certain way. You can't get caught up in a car accident and die there on the scene, because guess what? Those organs can't be used. So there's a lot of educating and spreading awareness to be done. Tell us the good part of your after story about wearing my truth.
Okay, so wearing my truth came about maybe 3 months after I had my transplant, and I had just written my letter to my donor's family, thanking them, just showing them, you know, the gratitude that I felt for their family member making that decision to be a donor. I said, I still felt unfulfilled. I felt like even though I had expressed my emotions to his family, that there was still something more that I needed to do. And so it took me several months afterwards, but I said, I got to figure out some way to give back. I have to figure out some way to try to honor his legacy and to increase awareness about organ donation, because I'm here because of my donor. And there's so many other people out there that are there because of their donor. And I said, you know, I got to figure out a way. And so one of the things that stuck out for me was when I was on that transplant list, about 3 years after being initially placed on, they approved me for a living donor. And they said, you know, if you can find someone, you're sick, but not too sick, where you can actually qualify for a living donor transplant. And so I went into it all gung ho. I felt like, yeah, I can find somebody. It's going to be a piece of cake. But then a reality set in. I said, how am I supposed to ask somebody to give me a part of their liver? People, I mean, I was thinking to myself, I said, I won't even go next door and ask my neighbor for some sugar. Now, how am I supposed to go ask somebody to give me a piece of their liver? You know, like it was hard. I had a family reunion coming up that summer. And I talked to my aunt, and my aunt said, you know what? I'm going to go present you to our family. And, you know, when you're at a family reunion, you know them, but you don't really know them. So it was kind of, you know, it was like a testing thing in a way to see, okay, how would this work? And she took me up there and she introduced me to everybody. And she said, you know, this is Raven and this is what's going on. And I was so scared. I was so scared because, number one, like you mentioned earlier, it's difficult for people to know your business. Everyone likes to keep their, you know, their information to themselves. So I had to be vulnerable, and I'm not used to being vulnerable. And then let alone to ask them, oh, by the way, would you mind signing up to be my liver donor? So it was just incredibly difficult for me. I found it really hard, even with people that are my really good friends. I've been to school with them for years. It was hard for me to broker that conversation. And so, in thinking about wearing my truth, I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to find a way to make it easier for people to ask for a living donor. And so, what I thought of was, what is the most kind of like non-direct way to do it, but to still do it? And that's where these shirts came from. I thought about, well, how about if you just put it on a shirt? On the front, that shirt could say, I'm looking for a living donor in some manner. And then later on, I thought about, okay, now you have to identify yourself. What organ are you looking for? So I decided, since most people on the transplant list are either they need a kidney or they need a portion of a liver, let's work with that, you know. So on the back of the shirt, it says that you're a liver or kidney transplant candidate. And then I thought, well, in the moment of asking, and I went through this myself, in the moment of asking someone about that, now you have to do that education piece, like you stated earlier. People don't understand organ donation just in general, being a deceased donor. How are they going to understand what being a living donor is all about? And so I thought about that and I said, you know what? I'm going to build in a QR code so that when people scan this QR code, it's going to come up to, and I decided on the the UNOS Living Donation website. I said, we're going to use the United Network for Organ Sharing donation website, and it's going to tell you exactly what a living donor is, what do you have to do to become a living donor. And so that way, when you're in the midst of that conversation, they can scan it and they can figure out all of the little educational pieces that they need. And then you guys can talk. And if, you know, the beauty of it all is I feel like when you're wearing that shirt, people will approach you. You don't have to come up to anybody. And so that kind of weird piece of, oh, I don't know how to ask is taken out of the equation because now you're out in public just going about your normal day, but you have your shirt on. And if somebody sees it and they're interested, they're going to come up to you and they're going to ask you. So it kind of makes it a little more convenient, I guess, and it takes the anxiety part of it all out. And so that's what I decided to do. And it's been great. It's been a really great process for me to see people getting in on the idea of, yeah, I can wear that shirt. And I've had a lot of people that have gotten the shirt. Even in Germany, I've had orders in Germany. So it's been really great. It's been a good outreach of people that are interested because I know for me, had I had this idea before when I needed a living donor, I would have definitely went with the shirt. Because like I said, I just found it so difficult to ask for somebody. And so that's what I wanted to do with the business. I said, I want to help people broker that conversation, that difficult conversation, and make it easier because I think we both know that if you're able to get transplanted before you get really, really sick, your odds of doing better are better. Waiting that long. I mean, it's so many people, unfortunately, that die waiting on that list for their organ that, you know, why not? I'm trying to encourage people, empower them to go speak. And you have to be vulnerable. You have to understand that you need help. You can't do this on your own. Like you need somebody's help. So why not be brave, get out there and speak up for yourself and advocate for yourself to try to make yourself better because nobody wants to, you know, I hear so many people that are kidney transplant candidates that are on dialysis and they talk about how difficult it is. I can't speak to that personally, but I've read the stories. I hear the stories. It doesn't sound great at all, you know, so why not put yourself out there and just try? So that's what I hope that my business is accomplishing.
I think wearing my truth is absolutely awesome. I think I saw it somewhere and I said, that is such a great idea. It's the kidney and the liver can be donated from a living or donor. And we're trying to promote living donors, but that really has to be difficult, especially if it's not a family member. Sometimes a family member will donate if you're fortunate enough and they really love you. But to add
Yes.
stranger, that is just to some people unthinkable. But believe it or not, there are people out there with good hearts. And I see those stories all the time. That's why I try to put it on our page to let people know. Is it a common thing? No.
No.
But there are people out there. It is hard to walk up and
Oh
just
yeah.
ask people. I know people who go to their churches and say, well, but, I love you, but no, I'm not giving you a piece of my liver.
Right. No, and that's true. And I think also one of the things, and I'm trying to do a better job of communicating it through videos, but I think it's great. I really, really am impressed by people that make posts, asking for a kidney or a liver. But what I try to explain is that it's so easy to just kind of scroll and like and scroll and like, oh yeah, I like that. Or, I definitely believe in the power of prayer. And so I appreciate when people, they put the praying hand emojis and stuff like that. But we got to help people, we got to help people. And so that's what I say, like, you have to, I try to communicate to people. If you have resources, I try to tell like the people that follow my page, you're a recipient. If you have a resource, share that with those people. Don't just like it. Don't just give them the praying hands, which is still great. Tell them, oh, have you considered doing this? I have people that write me all day, every day. Well, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? And so I'm literally crafting out all of these, DMs. Oh, well, do this, try this. And don't forget, I have shirts too, but I really try to help people instead of just liking. Because it's so easy kind of get caught up in that just being on the internet. And even though people see your face, there's no emotional connection, I don't think. I feel like the shirts can complement that internet search or you putting your post out there in the sense that you're a real life person walking around with this shirt. So when you go to your doctor, when you go to the gas station, when you go to the grocery store, whatever else you do in your daily life, people see you and they connect that face. Oh, this is a real person. I mean, I know obviously they know you're a real person when you post online, but it does something different when you see that actual person, I believe, with that shirt on. So that's what I try to communicate, that this can be complementary to your posting on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, whatever you're doing. It doesn't have to be exclusionary that, oh, I'm only saying just wear my shirts. No, I'm saying keep doing what you're doing. But in addition, there are different ways to get at a solution. Try everything. Don't just limit yourself to just type in, oh, can you share this, like this, that I need a kidney, I need a liver. There are other ways to get about trying to do that. And I try to tell people, just do that. Do more stuff that's going to get yourself out there. And that would include wearing a shirt too. So that's what I try to do.
Put your shirt on, get on the internet. You don't know where it's going to end up. The internet is a wonderful place.
It is. It is. Yeah. And it's like the shirts can be worn when you're making that post. You can wear your shirt in that post too. It's not just only you can wear it in the streets. Like you can actually wear it, take a picture. I need it, it's clear as day. It says it right on the front. So yeah, that's what my mission is. And I'm really just trying to figure out how to get more exposure because I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I think it's a great idea. Like I said, had I had the idea back then, I would have been wearing a shirt, but I didn't. It took for me to kind of look and do hindsight. But yeah, I really do feel very good about what I'm trying to accomplish. I stand behind it, and I'm just trying to get more people to understand that there are other ways to go about getting to the end goal. It's about education is so important. I think if we had more people that understood just organ donation in general, there would not be such a gap in people needing organs. And so I really think, that collectively their needs, and I'm not exactly sure how that education piece rolls out, but I know that Donate Life, that whole hashtag and the way that they promote deceased donation, everyone understands that, but it's just such a gap with living organ donation that needs to be filled. And so I really want to be a part of that. And that's obviously kind of like the end goal of what I'm trying to do as well, is just to promote living organ donation for people.
We thank you so much for sharing your story with us and spending time with EMAD.